We're coming up on the yearly anniversary for Pokemon Pocket, and with that, we're celebrating the year that it's been. So to kick off this season of videos, I wanted to revisit all of my favorite deck lists from each season throughout Series A. This current season doesn't really count because there were no new cards, but we've still got 10 seasons and 10 deck lists to go over, so let's get into it. So we're going all the way back to the beginning in the Genetic Apex days with the deck list that I won the 5-win streak event with, which I called Star Boys, because it was Amistar and Starmie. This deck list pretty much took the concept of the promo Mankey deck. If you remember that, you'd basically hit and then your Primeape would come in and would just be dealing massive damage real early game. And you always led with the Mankey because you had the advantage of Kabutops being a fossil, so you'd run no other basics. You'd always start with the Mankey. If you had Primeape in your hand, you basically won. Kind of follow the same structure here because we're running Staryu and the Fossil. So we'd always start with Staryu. If we had Starmie, it was pretty much game over because then we could kind of slowly build into our Amistar. Starmie back then, you know, 2 energy to hit for 90 was absolutely crazy. Yes, it hit 10 less than Primeape would, but you had that much more HP and you could retreat for free. So there was a possibility that you could deal with 2 Starmie EXs because there was no Cyrus back then. It was just Sabrina. So, especially with Misty's too, you know, powering up the Amistar faster or the Starmie, no shame, right? No shame. And this was the 5-win streak event after all. So, yeah, by the time you handled Starmie EX, Amistar would come out and pretty much you'd win the game because you probably already handled at least, you know, a Pokemon or 2. They're probably building up whatever they needed, their ace or whatever on the bench. It finally comes out, takes care of Starmie, Amistar comes out, you can't do anything. And yeah, it was really fun. That was one of the biggest thrills in gaming that I ever had, was getting that first 5-win streak, getting that event in this game. And it was a completely original deck, you know, nobody else, I never saw this anywhere. It was, you know, mostly Mewtwo EX and Pikachu EX deck lists everywhere. Like every other match for me was a Mewtwo EX deck pretty much. So nobody wanted to run Water at all because Pikachu was so relevant, so dominant. So nobody saw this coming, and it was a completely original deck, so they didn't know what to do around it and how I was always starting with Starmie EX pretty much. So near and dear to my heart, but let's move on to the next one. Ah, yes, the Mythical Island days where you were either facing Mewtwo EX or Celebi EX. Yeah, I do have one Celebi EX in this deck list, but the general direction was Executor because for 2 energy, basically, if you had Superior, it just countered pretty much everything. It 100% countered the Celebes. And most of the Mewtwo's would be burning a lot of their, you know, half their energy to swing. But yeah, this was a really fun deck. I loved using Dhelmise as like the early aggressor, especially if you could draw into Superior. One of the reasons that I wanted to use this deck so much was because I just got so many Superiors, and I named this deck Omnath because, you know, from Magic the Gathering, in case you play that. I don't anymore, but would love to get back into it maybe. Yeah, Omnath was, Superior, I just got so many copies of when I was, you know, just ripping packs of Mythical Island. So I figured I had to make a deck list around it, you know, and this was what was in. I did have the 1 copy of Celebi EX in there in case I was going up against a Super Sweat, but otherwise, this is a really fun deck, and yeah, moving on. Spacetime Smackdown, I'm probably still gonna say was the greatest pack of all of the meta. Actually, I should maybe do another video on that. What were the greatest seasons? Wow, that's a good idea. Spacetime Smackdown, I would still say, was the pack that changed the game because it brought tools. We got Cyrus, Mars, Darkrai, Rampardos. There were so many good cards in this, and through it birthed one of the greatest like deck types that we've ever seen in this game, and that a lot have based off of Sense, and that was Toolbox, specifically the Fighting Toolbox, because Gallade was our ace that would also counter everything pretty much, and Hitmonlee to snipe anything or take care of something, you know, early game that, you know, you knew that they were going to try to like evolve into or something, or to get that early damage on, but then also prep Marshadow in the back as the revenge killer. This was just such a fun deck, honestly. I don't know why I had Leafs in here, But I guess I had Leafs in here. I think it was just for free retreat or something. I'd probably just replace that with an X speed. I've had these deck lists saved for a very long time for this video specifically. And yeah, running 2 Cyrus, it was probably one of my favorite things to do right when we got Cyrus, was to just really start sniping. Yeah, this was just a blast. And I realized that I enjoyed the versatility. I didn't really like the solitaire style decks like Solgaleo, if you will, or like Charizard. Like this, I felt like I could be unstoppable. You know, that the game was in my control, other than like a Bricked Hand, of course. So moving on. At the time, I really liked the idea of Triumphant Light as just how the pack worked, but I really disliked the meta of it. It just, everybody was running Arceus. It was like, what are you doing if you're not running him? You kind of had to, right? And I kind of liked this deck list because it kind of evolved off of, you know, the Space Time Smackdown favorite deck list, which was Toolbox, but it was kind of different. Like, you still had your ace with Arceus, you had the sniper with Rotom, but you kind of had like a utility with Shaman being able to just swap all, because they're all basics, just freely retreat no matter what. And Carnivine was like this like early aggression that I really enjoyed using, especially if you could get the Rocky Helm on him. It was disgusting back then. And I think the key to this was the Shaman with the Dawns. I would be able to like swap Rotom back and then place the energy on Arceus. Like, think about that. I could essentially have Arceus with 1 energy on the bench, and then next turn, attach that energy, Shaman retreat Carnivine into Arceus, boom, I'm just like winning, you know? Multiple times that Dawn has been a really good card for me. So, but yeah, this is, that'll come back later. But this was a really fun deck. Terrible meta though. Everybody was running like Dialga, Arceus. It was disgusting, it was terrible. And I think, was it Magnezone Darkrai at the time too? Or was that was last meta? That was Space Time Smackdown? Yeah, those were like the only 2 decks that people were running. It was nice that Mewtwo and Pikachu were kind of gone, but at what cost? And then now we're getting into peak Pokemon Pocket. Nobody saw Shining Revelry coming. And on top of that, we got so many EXs from it too. And Ranked came. It was just crazy. I know that first season of Ranked was really tough because everyone was kind of trying to find their places. But this was the first deck list that I went live with. So again, one that I hold near and dear to my heart. I thought it was really interesting how you could have a deck list without Pokeballs, because you'd always start with the Weedle, you'd multiply, you'd get the other Weedle. This was before rare candies, so it kind of was like, if you couldn't get into the Beedrill EX, you'd just lose. It's kind of similar to nowadays where, like, if you don't run an Oricorio counter, and you see one on the bench, you're like, I just lose, you know? So it is what it is. That's why we had communication in there, Rocky Helms to help with the damage, Team Rocket Grunts to help stall a little bit and to kind of play more into Beedrill EX's like prevention, if you will. I really liked Iono. I ran Iono in almost every single deck list for a long time. That was what I spent my pack points on from Shining Revelry too. So yeah, this is just a really fun deck. And again, the first one I ever went live with, had a lot of fun. Now, Celestial Guardians was probably peak when it came to ranked and just the vibes of where the game was at and everything, because not only was like everyone already like in their proper place ranked wise, but then we just got all these new EXs and we got rare candies, which brought all of the stage 2 mons back, because we were just in such a rut with like basically running only stage 1 or basic EXs. So, and on top of that, like, water had been in such a bad place for so long because of Misty that when we got Crabominable EX, it breathed so much fresh air into water that like you'd have that as the early aggressor, then Greninja would come in to deal 20 more damage, so you'd be hitting 100 every single turn. And we were running Palkia EX with this because I really liked Palkia, but it just felt like a better investment to put all of those energies on Articuno to come in and hit for the consistent 80 every turn, while also pinging everything on the bench for you to pull with your 2 Cyruses. The Rocky Helms on Crabominable EX were also disgusting. This was like a perfect deck list at the time. I loved running this. There were so many different decks being ran at the time. And also, Oricorio entered the chat with this, and Greninja was the perfect counter to it as well. So I didn't even have to worry about that. And yeah, man, this was... this may have been the peak of Pocket. This was probably peak Pocket right here. Celestial Guardians. Then we enter Extra Dimensional Crisis, which I said I really liked Triumphant Light and like how that theme was, but this did it so much better. Being able to get a Guzzlord EX deck or a Buzzwole EX deck out of this, crazy. This was the first deck list that I went on a 10 win streak with live in ranked. And again, gonna hold it near and dear to my heart. And again, it was because of the Dawn. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw me, hitting with Naganadel, then swapping back into like a Guzzlord to grind core them quick, or to kind of build it up, and then all of a sudden Guzzlord's hitting with Tyrannical Hull. Nobody saw it coming. Everyone was expecting the Lucamine play. Nobody saw the Dawn coming. And I think that was what got me to the 10 win streaks. It was like that play almost every single, it was like the game-winning play or the turn before the game-winning play, just, for damage numbers and stuff. But yeah, really just had a whole bunch of fun with this deck list. Of course, going on a 10 win streak, just really feeling myself. Gonna hold this one near and dear to my heart as well. But moving on. Eevee Grove was an amazing follow-up. I think it was probably the best B set we've ever had, honestly. I will say the meta got pretty boring pretty quick because we just figured out the meta so fast. It was like after 4 days we had it figured out. But this deck spawned from it, and it was a really fun and different deck. Was kind of the only like new refreshing deck. Yes, we had a lot of Sylveon slop in this meta as well, but this one I also hold near and dear to my heart because this was the deck list that I was using when we hit 1,000 subs live, and was just absolutely speechless, at the time. And yeah, this was just a lot of fun. Obviously having the whole set with, getting every type basically getting like an Eevee to kind of splash into it was really fun as well. But yeah, the Sylveon slop was a thing in this, so it was what it was. And then Wisdom of Sea and Sky was so anticipated because we finally got Johto, and with it, Babies, which was another huge breath of fresh air, being able to solve the going first problem with it, and sometimes almost wanting to go first. This was, I caved. I started to use Darkrai and Silvally and Oricorio. Throughout this whole year, I've been getting to be a better player. Playing things like that Eevee Grove deck, where once you learn how to pilot it, you just kind of become a better player instinctively, just because, playing in different styles and things. But when you lock in with a deck list like this, and you understand what your unpreferred leads are and how to get out of them, or how to take advantage of your preferred leads, and then also understanding the matchups, like the second those cards flip over, you're like, I'm winning this one, or I'm probably gonna lose this one. And like knowing how to pivot with that and still get wins. I went on multiple win streaks. A 10, a 7, a 7, a 5, 5, 5. Like, I cruised all the way through Ultra Ball into Master for the first time, and maybe the only time, because I just wanted to hit it once. I was never in any rush. But it was like, I understood how and why this game is so great, because I ascended to that level, if you will. Then Secluded Springs happened. And we all know that Suicune completely took over, and there was really nothing you could do about it. I mean, it was so much better, especially when you pair it with things like Greninja, Mantike. It was just disgusting. And I, especially after just hitting Master, was like, I'm good on all that. And I started to pivot the direction of the channel into more of, you know, your actual casual club, you know, into more of the solo experience, more of the casual experience. And with that, this deck list came through. This was a creation by myself. I've talked about this one a lot. It's been featured a lot on the channel. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'll just like link other videos to it. But this felt, you know, similar to times before, like from Triumphant Light, from Space Time Smackdown into Triumphant Light. There were like certain decks, you know, that like felt like a natural, you know, evolved version from the last. This felt like a naturally evolved version from the last deck list, where we are still using babies, Silvally into Altaria. Like this is a, you know, a better version of Silvally in a way, as long as you can get the energies placed right. And when's the last time you saw Drud swinging? It's so fun, especially when you place the Rocky Helm on him. It's absolutely disgusting, but it's so fun, and then you have no weaknesses. And I had an absolute blast with this deck list, and it really reminded me, you know, through this whole journey of the first year of this game, kind of brought me all the way back to home, as corny as that says, as it is to say that, that just reminded me that, you know, I play this game for fun. Yes, I make content on it and stuff like that, and there's certain expectations or things to do with that, but at the end of the day, you know, just have fun with the game. And I think my content's going to shine a little bit better, maybe not get as many views, but is going to be better, is going to be easier to consume and more enjoyable to consume if I'm having fun with it and I'm making fun videos like this one. So yeah. But hey, that's all of them. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. That really means a lot. Why don't you go like the video since you did watch all the way through? And while you're down there, leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite deck list was throughout this whole first year. Happy anniversary. Take it easy. And hopefully, I'll catch you next time.